I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
Hello friends, a Mi-24 Hind attack helicopter from the Ukrainian Army Aviation is heading to the front, flying less than a meter above the ground, over the fields and defense-in-depth lines which protect the rear to ensure that Ivan has no chance of breaking through the defenses and reaching the defender's supply train. These lines of defensive obstacles have been reinforced day after day, ensuring strong positions to withstand the attacks of the horde. Speaking of helicopters, during a series of fierce night battles over the Dnipro Delta, in the early hours of July 30, the crews of the Mi-8 and Mi-24 helicopters from the 11th Kherson Army Aviation Brigade managed to intercept and destroy a combined 14 Shahed 136 kamikaze attack drones and Gerbera-type decoy drones, which were part of a new wave of air attacks by the invaders, targeting civilian and military infrastructure. The brigade's pilots and gunners conducted several low-altitude interceptions, using only front and side machine guns at close range and aiming with thermal cameras. Lately, the short
distancia, apuntadas utilizando cámaras térmicas. Últimamente, los
Ukrainians are not using spotlights to illuminate their targets because Russian operators can turn their drones to attack the helicopters in flight, which they could easily shoot down by detonating their warheads or simply by ramming one of their rotors. The Kherson Army Aviation Brigade operates in peacetime from the Chornobaitka airfield. It is subordinated to the operational command south of the Ukrainian ground forces, and it has established itself as one of the main active defenses against the massive waves of Russian drones, since they have developed a specific low-altitude hunting doctrine focused on covering both the frontline areas where there is no coverage from conventional air defense systems, as well as intercepting Ivan swarms out at sea to reduce the number of drones that manage to reach land. The work of this force represents an effective and low-cost tactical solution against the Russian strategy of saturating the airspace with low-cost drones, reducing the pressure on missile units and mobile fire groups, which defend Ukrainian cities and facilities. Helicopters are effective and can actively pursue targets that change direction along their route. The brigade received orders to pursue targets that can change direction along their route since 2026, a presidential distinction for valor, as they have managed to shoot down literally thousands of Shahed drones.
Miles de drones Shahed desde el inicio de la invasión. Me pregunto si los pilotos y artilleros podrán recibir el título de As por derribar drones.
Cost. Reducing the invasion. I wonder if pilots and gunners could receive the title of ace for shooting down Z drones. Leave your opinion in the comments. I'm interested to know. The pressure on the units to fly low, mobile missiles.
Dios, me interesa saber lo que piensan.
For strategic attack, FP-1 skillfully maneuvers between apartment buildings in Ryazan, Russia, en route to a tactical objective. What is the refinery cost in Russia's saturation strategy? The fact that they can fly between buildings could be due to airspace, with some communication system that allows them to descend during the final stage of flight. Or maybe they simply measure pressure, the AI-guided flight units, missiles, and the obstacles to evade them. Any of.
Oficial, que identifica los obstáculos para evadirlos.
A cost solution, lowering the pressure on the missile defense units. On the strategic sanctions front, on July 25th, the defenders launched a swarm against the Tyumen oil refinery, located more than 2,000 kilometers from the front in the Russian region of western Siberia, causing a fire at the oil processing plant. Local residents reported hearing multiple explosions and gunfire from the air defense systems protecting the plant. The Ukrainian Special Operations Forces reported that their deep strike units, supported by information generated by the internal resistance group Chernaya Iskra, carried out the operation. The Tyumen refinery is the only major refinery in the Ural district. It has an annual processing capacity of 9 million tons of crude oil. It mainly produces Euro 5 diesel and gasoline, petroleum coke, bitumen, and other products that are mainly supplied to the regions of Western Siberia and the Urals. This was the second confirmed attack at the same site in just over a month, following a previous attack on June 20. Given the smoke columns rising from the plant, I'd say it was badly damaged. Another headache for Ivan. Also on July 25th, the Security Service of Ukraine deployed its long-range drones to attack multiple Russian military and logistical targets at sea, Caspian, more than 900 kilometers from the front, where they attacked the Marina Filanovsky oil platform, operated by Lukoil, which is a major energy asset in the northern Caspian sector, and it has been repeatedly attacked by the defenders. Because of its size, it is likely that it was only damaged and not destroyed. But in the meantime, stopping its operations at least halts the flow of foreign currency going to the Kremlin. In the same raid, the sanctioned cargo ships Port Olia II and Begay were attacked, both identified by Ukrainian authorities as being used to transport military cargo, including components for Iranian and Chinese-made drones, between Iranian and Russian ports. Another one that received an inspection visit was a Molnia-class missile boat, capable of launching anti-ship missiles, which are used in air defense missions for the gas extraction platforms of the Horde. The SBU emphasized that the cargo ships attacked are subject to international sanctions imposed by the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Ukraine. President Zelensky highlighted the operation in the Caspian Sea, noting that the attacks on Iranian ships carrying military supplies are a legal response, legitimate under Ukraine's right to self-defense against the ongoing Russian attacks on Ukrainian ports and infrastructure. The operation provoked a strong diplomatic response from Iran. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Tehran stated that an Iranian merchant ship in the Caspian Sea was hit, causing an explosion that killed one sailor and left another injured, and they condemned the attack as a blatant violation of the United Nations Charter. They summoned the Ukrainian Chargé d'Affaires in Tehran and warned that the action cannot go unpunished. The pursuit of those responsible for atrocities in Ukraine continues. And during the night of August 1st, a powerful explosion shook the entrance of the luxurious Italian restaurant Balsi Rossi in Kudrinskaya Square in the center of Moscow, located just 2 kilometers from the Kremlin, causing the death of at least 3 people and injuring another 21. The explosion occurred around 8 p.m. local time near the restaurant's terrace, breaking the calm of one of the most prestigious districts in the capital of Mordor. According to the Russian National Anti-Terrorism Committee, an unidentified woman approached the restaurant carrying an improvised explosive device hidden in a box. A security guard stopped her at the entrance, at which point the device detonated. The woman, the guard, and a restaurant customer died on the spot. The explosive, with a power equivalent to about 1 kilogram of TNT and filled with metal fragments, caused severe damage to the terrace, leaving the curtains shredded and the columns damaged. Later reports indicate that 2 more victims died in the hospital, while several others remain in critical condition. Numerous Russian media outlets and Z-Mill bloggers have indicated that the 55th birthday of Colonel General Alexander Chaiko, commander and chief of the Russian Aerospace Forces, was being celebrated at the venue. Chaiko, who took office in May of this year. A video circulating online shows the preparations, including a banner on the stage with the inscription Alexander 55.
Cinco.
Chaiko, who previously commanded the Russian forces that advanced on Kyiv from Belarus during the early stages of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. He faces international accusations related to the events in Bucha during the Russian occupation, which lasted approximately 1 month. Chaiko had previously commanded Russian forces in Syria between 2019 and 2021, where the United Kingdom linked him to indiscriminate attacks against civilian infrastructure, hospitals, and schools in Idlib, which caused the deaths of approximately 1,600 civilians. Among the guests at his birthday were high-ranking FSB officers, generals from the Ministry of Defense, legislators, and government officials. It was reported that Chaiko was unharmed, although the attack makes it clear that senior commanders have increasingly become targets of elimination operations. Hello friends, the migration of Ukrainian flamingos into the interior of Russia is increasing, which has led to more sightings of these birds by the Mordorites, as in this case where it is flying at a very low altitude, literally at the height of the treetops. Interestingly, this recording could prove the existence of an improved version with an upgraded navigation system and altimeter, allowing it to fly along the terrain at much lower altitudes than previously observed for the system. This low-altitude flight regime takes advantage of terrain interference and the radar horizon limitations of ground-based air defense systems, making interception significantly more complex, which has resulted in greater effectiveness in its attacks. Also, during the early morning of August 2nd, a swarm of long-range Ukrainian drones carried out a coordinated attack in Russia's Saratov Oblast, causing fires at the Saratov oil refinery operated by Rosneft and at the Engels 2 airfield. During the attack, footage recorded by civilians captured an unidentified Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicle with an unusual angular design, similar to a scaled-down F-1 117 Nighthawk flying at high speed at very low altitude. The aircraft in question is the Bravo, which is a new type of strategic attack drone powered by a jet engine. It reportedly has a range of about 2,000 kilometers, a maximum speed of 800 kilometers per hour, a combat payload of up to 200 kilograms, and is manufactured by the Ukrainian company Triada Robotics. Because of its design, it has several interesting features, such as the ability to operate in coordinated attack swarms, fly at low altitude, following pre-programmed routes, and a fuselage design that makes it harder for the Horde's air defense radars to detect. We might start seeing the Bravo more often on the channel. Meanwhile, the Wildberries facilities continue to receive a steady flow of packages from Ukraine, all of which are successfully delivered to their recipients. In this case, it's the company's distribution warehouse in Samara that released a generous smokescreen to confirm that the rest of Ivan's packages definitely won't be delivered. Continuing on the technological front, Ukrainian forces are perfecting the use of weather balloons to transport kamikaze drones to Ivan's rear, while the balloons move silently across the front at high altitude before releasing their payload. It enters the action area with a nearly full battery, boosting their operational range and persistence. These balloons are filled with helium and can lift a Hornet drone of approximately 2 meters, guided by artificial intelligence, to altitudes of up to 5,000 meters, flying into airspace controlled by Russia to automatically release the drone in its hunting zone. The Hornet takes advantage of the altitude to glide while searching for targets, then turns on its engine to carry out its final attack. According to the defenders, thanks to this system, this type of drone manages to extend its attack range to nearly 300 kilometers from the launch point. In addition, thanks to the balloon, the engine noise and thermal signature are eliminated during the transit phase. And it also has a minimal radar cross-section, which makes it difficult for Russian air defenses to detect it. The developers involved in the project, including teams associated with Kettle Tech Labs, and the American company Perennial Autonomy, founded by former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, designed the system to use the unique geographical fact that prevailing winds usually blow from Ukraine toward Russian-occupied territories. Between July and early August 2026, battlefield recordings indicate that the tactic has surpassed the testing phase, and Ukrainian units have already launched hundreds of Hornet missiles from balloons over Crimea and other rear areas. In fact, the invaders have observed balloons with attack drones hanging at altitudes of between 5 and 7 kilometers, some of which have managed to destroy targets near Sevastopol. But the defenders are expanding this concept, and in this video published by the invaders, we can see how they are also launching balloons equipped with a Starlink terminal to which they have attached an attack drone. The idea is to allow these systems to operate deep in the rear of the horde by flying above the operational altitude of most of Ivan's air defense and electronic warfare systems. Back at the front, we see a Ukrainian Mosquito encountering a Z-Horde ammunition depot, the one that's full of anti-tank mines, TM-62 mortar shells, plastic explosives, and artillery ammunition inside a house, which it proceeds to launch into the ionosphere, along with the house. It's a shame that a Ukrainian farmer's house disappeared, but they couldn't let Ivan have the chance to use all the paraphernalia he had gathered in that place. In another sector, the defenders have equipped their Mosquitoes with net launchers, which they use to bring down Ivan's fiber optic guided drones, which in this case were operating behind the front line. This method is very effective, but it carries the risk of leaving an active explosive drone on the ground, which is still connected to its operator. Therefore, it must be deactivated with extreme care by a team of specialists, or simply destroyed with a few well-aimed shots from the infantry, whichever is closer. But it's not the only way a Mosquito can capture an invader, like in this case, where a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone is patrolling a forest and encounters one. It comes across an invader taking a refreshing nap who is awakened by the noise of the Mosquito and immediately makes a run for it. The drone follows him, cutting off his path and guiding him toward a crater where the orc decides to set up a defense. There, he is found by a reconnaissance team that takes him prisoner. It's interesting the assault orc lacked his rifle, though he probably traded it for vodka. At least now he'll be part of a prisoner exchange, allowing another defender to return home. So, a happy ending for everyone. On the naval front, 2 Magura-type naval drones attacked and sank the Russian container ship Yanina during the night of July 31st. The ship, operated by the company Fesco, which is controlled by the state nuclear corporation Rosatom, sank in international waters approximately 240 kilometers southwest of the port of Novorossiysk. The Yanina was a ship built in 2005 that measured approximately 143 meters, with a capacity of 962 containers. It was heading from Mundra, India to Novorossiysk after passing through the Suez Canal and the Bosphorus. According to Rosatom, it was carrying general cargo including frozen food and construction materials. Ukrainian President Zelensky confirmed the operation, describing the Yanina as a sanctioned Russian vessel, whose destruction is justified because it is one of the assets supporting the logistics of the Zed invasion against Ukraine. The crew abandoned the ship in an orderly manner and were rescued by the merchant vessel Delphinus, flying the Turkish flag, which came to the rescue despite the risk of further drone attacks in the area. The last crew member was located and evacuated by the naval aviation of the Russian Black Sea Fleet the following morning. On August 1st, another Ukrainian naval drone struck the stern of the supertanker Buda as the vessel was approaching the Russian port of Taman in the Black Sea. The footage shows the drone approaching the imposing hull of the 243-meter tanker with a dead weight of 105,600 tons, built in 2006, and finally striking the area where the propulsion and steering systems are located. The attack managed to temporarily disable the vessel, but it was able to change course and head toward Istanbul. It would be a shame if another Ukrainian naval drone were to come its way. Hello friends. We begin with the fierce air battles taking place over Ukraine, where in this case we see a Mirage 2000-5 donated by France, intercepting a Russian jet-powered drone. These have started to appear in greater numbers in recent weeks, and due to their speed, are more difficult to intercept. In this other case, an F-16 fighter bomber shoots down another Shahed jet-powered drone with its 20mm Vulcan cannon. While Ukrainian fighter jets are perfectly capable of carrying out these missions, spending their flight hours on this type of task is highly inefficient. However, until there is a low-cost response to this threat, the defenders have no choice but to send their valuable fighter jets to destroy Ivan's unmanned raiders. At the front, a drone notices that the invaders have built a nest in the basement of a house, inside which they have installed a wood-burning stove with its own chimney. To warmly welcome the new neighbors, the defenders decide to send a present through the chimney. If they were cooking something on the stove, it definitely turned out pretty spicy. I think that pilot must be an ace at mini golf. On the front line, operators from the Lazar group of the Ukrainian National Guard destroyed a Russian BM-27 Uragan multiple rocket launcher system near Velika Novosilka. The Lazar group mapped the firing positions used by the Russian Uragan in the sector and maintained constant surveillance. Their patience paid off when they located the system while it was still heading to its launch position with a full load of rockets. 2 direct hits from grenades dropped by the unit's bomber drones put the vehicle in party mode. The video ends with one of Group Lazar's favorite traditions, landing a drone directly on top of the destroyed Russian equipment. The BM-27 Uragan is a Soviet-designed system capable of launching devastating area bombardments with a range of up to 35 kilometers, which is why it remains a high-value target for Ukrainian forces. Others who did not have a happy ending were 2 Grad multiple rocket launchers from the Horde, which were firing salvos of 122mm rockets. At that moment, their position was discovered by a Ukrainian Shark-type reconnaissance drone, which called for an artillery strike with fragmentation ammunition, causing a massive secondary detonation of the rockets that were being reloaded into the launcher. Upon re-examining the area, it was confirmed that 1 Grad had been completely vaporized, and the second was severely damaged in the same position. I wonder what happened to the crews. In the campaign of attacks against Ivan's logistics centers, the drones paid a visit to one of the largest logistics centers still left to wild berries in the early morning of August 3rd. The one located in the village of Kryastovo, Savinsky district, Vladimir region, approximately 150 kilometers east of Moscow and more than 580 kilometers from the border with Ukraine, the one that has an area of 175,000 square meters. The FP-1 drones managed to damage a large part of the extensive complex, although the facilities were not completely destroyed. This complex, designed to store and manage more than 120 million packages, constitutes a key node for the flow of goods between the Moscow region and the central, northwestern, and northern areas of European Russia. More than 200 firefighters were deployed to fight a fire that consumed approximately 100,000 square meters of the facilities, the equivalent of about 14 soccer fields. Images obtained on August 4th revealed that the facilities suffered structural damage, but only part of the warehouse appears to have been completely destroyed. Apparently, the drones will need to pay a second visit. The one that won't make it is the Wild Berry Center, located in the village of Novosemykino, Samara region, which burned down completely, leaving only the offices of the facility standing. That's good. This way they can pay the workers severance. Yep, absolutely nothing was left standing of these facilities. In the north of Mordor, during the early morning of August 4th, another attack by Ukrainian drones hit a large logistics complex covering 154,000 square meters, operated by Wild Berries. In the town of Krasnivor, about 40 kilometers southeast of St. Petersburg, which caused a large fire in one of the agricultural distribution centers, newest and largest in Russia, completed earlier this year, and with the capacity to store more than 57 million items. At this rate, it would be better for Ivan to start encouraging bartering among his orcs, since the campaign of attacks on this type of facility has already wiped out half of Wildberry's facilities. The next one on the list is Ozon. Speaking of the FP1 mosquitoes that are doing the heavy lifting in this campaign, Firepoint presented a video to show what's inside their mosquitoes and what the difference is between the different systems. First of all, we can see the Deep Strike FP1, which has an operational range of 3,400 kilometers with a maximum payload of 60 kilograms. Meanwhile, the FP2 for medium-range strikes offers a payload of up to 200 kilograms with a range of up to 700 kilometers. Both systems have a wingspan of 6 meters, a maximum speed of 205 kilometers per hour, and a cruising speed between 140 and 180 kilometers per hour. The launch is carried out using a solid rocket booster from fixed platforms or mobile systems based on trucks, which allows for rapid deployment in just 18 minutes. The exponential increase in the range of these systems is due to the redesign of the wings, which can now also carry integrated additional fuel tanks. Combined with a better aircraft structure, engine efficiency, improved guidance system resistance to electronic warfare, and modular warhead integration, have resulted in improved performance in their attacks on high-value targets, such as the Omsk oil refinery in early July, which is 3,400 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Firepoint has increased the production of these systems to approximately 200 FP1 and FP2 fuselages per day, and they are working to further increase those numbers, as these systems currently account for most of Ukraine's deep strike missions against Russia. The Cameroonian-flagged Ro-Ro cargo ship Nadezhda was attacked by naval drones on Monday, about 20 nautical miles from the Russian port of Novorossiysk, suffering considerable damage and a fire that forced the 22 crew members to abandon ship, and they were rescued by Russian naval units. The ship is operated by a Turkish company and was heading from Novorossiysk to the Turkish port of Samsun. The risk of new drone attacks has prevented firefighting and recovery operations in the area. The ship's captain reported that between 6 and 7 drones took part in the attack. This incursion is part of the blockade that Ukrainian forces are trying to establish over the Russian ports in the Black Sea, an operation that has in turn been responded to by the invaders with air attacks against ships approaching Ukrainian ports on the coast of the Odessa region. In the same area, the crew of Otio ferry, this time loaded with trucks, had a close encounter with a Ukrainian drone, very similar to the Horde's Shahed drones, which passed very close to the ship, leaving the crew on edge. They were lucky this time because clearly the drone aborted the attack at the last moment. Maybe the ship was Turkish or from another neutral country. Hello friends, let's start with this footage where we see the exact moment when a medium-range drone, Hornet, pays an inspection visit to an S-400 missile launcher that the Horde had installed to protect the bridge over the Kerch Strait, and to the ferries that carry vehicles between the peninsula and mainland. Ukrainian forces have been consistently striking the air defenses in that area. We should have news soon in that sector where the Firepoint attack drones are still operating intensely. They have managed to reduce by 75% the traffic of ships that use that route, which is currently the only viable way to deliver enough supplies to Crimea. That's why it's vital for Ivan to keep it open. A patrol of Ukrainian special forces infiltrates the gray zone, where they find a position where two illegal tourists have built a couple of posts, in which they decided to take what they claim is a well-deserved nap. But their awakening was certainly unpleasant, as they woke up staring straight into the barrels of the defenders' rifles, who at least woke them up gently so as not to alert the positions of other invaders nearby. So they were quickly disarmed, then transported to Ukrainian positions, where after telling everything they know about the horde's movements in the area, they will be sent to join the prisoner exchange pool. While they wait, now they can sleep peacefully without being woken up. This video is for our Spanish friends, as in it we can see the MIM-24 Hawk anti-aircraft missile battery of Ukraine's 201st Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade in action, destroying multiple horde intruders over the south of the country. The unit operates from Permobaisk and used to operate only S-300 systems, but it received a battery of Hawk missiles donated by Spain as reinforcement. These systems offer medium-range attack capability and, despite their age, have demonstrated a remarkable 85% effectiveness rate. These systems are credited with intercepting multiple Russian Kh-59 and Caliber cruise missiles, as well as dozens of Shahed loitering drones. The Spanish Hawk systems complement more advanced Western systems like the Patriot, NASAMS, and IRIS-T by providing lower-cost coverage against low and medium-altitude threats, which helps conserve Ukraine's scarce advanced interceptors for ballistic missiles. The campaign of attacks against the rear of the horde in Zaporizhzhia continues at a great pace, and on August 2, operators from the 3rd Nasik Battalion of the 414th Systems Brigade, Magyar's Birds, drones attacked and destroyed most of a Russian convoy of 3 tanker trucks escorted by several mobile anti-aircraft vehicles, traveling near the occupied city of Primorsk. Ukrainian reconnaissance operators identified and began tracking the convoy, transmitting its position in real time. They called in a swarm of mosquitoes that descended on Ivan's vehicles, first taking out the last tanker truck in the column, whose explosion covered the escort vehicle behind it with burning fuel. So I would consider that one lost as well. Seeing the massacre behind them, the rest of the column accelerated to maximum speed while their colleagues' vehicles turned to ashes. But the mosquitoes weren't done with them yet, and one of them crashed into the next tanker truck, causing it to explode and veer off the road. Unfortunately, the last truck managed to keep going with 2 of the escorts, but let's think positively. There's no shortage of mosquitoes patrolling that road, and I'm sure they later ran into another ambush with their name on it. Another day, another invader who finds an unpleasant surprise on their way. This time it was Vladimir Kachuk, 35 years old founder and CEO of the company Uraldrone, which is one of the main developers of the Upir attack drones, or Vampire in Spanish. These are widely used by Russian forces in Ukraine. The thing is that Vladimir was seriously injured on the night of August 4th when an explosive device detonated under his Mercedes in the village of Bolshoy Istok, about 25 kilometers southeast of Yekaterinburg. His driver and bodyguard died at the scene, but Vladimir was rushed to intensive care, where the state news agency TASS reported that doctors were fighting for his life. His own Telegram channel, called Obsessed with War, with more than 650,000 subscribers, reported that he is in stable condition, although it confirmed that it was an attempt on his life. Uraldrone was founded by Kachuk in 2023 in the industrial region of the Urals, and specializes in the mass production of low-cost FPV drones that are resistant to interference. These systems have become some of the most common systems used in Russian tactical operations on the Ukrainian front. Kachuk has given public demonstrations of his drones to high-ranking Russian officials, including the old man in the Kremlin. The company is also subject to sanctions from the United States and the European Union for its involvement in the invaders' war effort. It's curious how Russians always say they hate the West, but they all drive Mercedes or other German brands. This is not good news, as during the early hours of Wednesday, August 5th, Russian forces launched one of the most intense combined missile and drone attacks in recent weeks against Kiev, killing at least 17 people and leaving 44 injured. The attack, which began shortly after midnight and lasted for more than an hour of air raid alerts, included 24 Iskander-M and S-400 ballistic missiles, 4 Zircon hypersonic missiles, and 115 attack drones, many of them jet-powered and some of which appear to have been equipped with cluster bombs. The capital's air defenses successfully neutralized 98 of the drones, but failed to intercept a single ballistic or hypersonic missile, allowing them to strike with devastating speed and precision. Emergency services reported widespread fires and structural collapses in several districts of the capital. President Zelensky confirmed the casualty figures in an official statement, noting that the main targets were warehouses belonging to civilian companies. Among them were a brewery, construction materials warehouses, civilian logistics centers of Nova Poshta, and facilities of major retail companies such as Epicenter, Silpo, and Fosse, as well as a railway station. 8 of the fatalities occurred on a train platform in Brovary, where civilians who were waiting for a delayed train lost their lives. Zelensky said that these lost lives are due to the shortage of ballistic missiles. He also pointed out that the deliveries of air defense missiles by partners have been reduced to a third of what was delivered in 2025, and he urged the G7, the European Union, and other allies to speed up the supply of interceptors or to impose new sanctions on the production of Russian ballistic missiles. To end on a more positive note, don't forget to support a campaign by Defenders for Girls. No for a truck for the unit. Glad to see Ukrainians still fighting for their country's freedom maintain a strong sense of humor. If you can't contribute, at least share these campaigns on social media. Every euro, dollar, or peso helps. Hello, friends. On August 5th, a Ukrainian attack drone paid an inspection visit to a Russian Yak-40 passenger plane parked on the runway of Belgorod International Airport, located 40 kilometers from the border with Ukraine. The 3-engine plane had been sitting on an open platform between hangars and runways for years, as if inviting a dose of long-range sanctions. And finally, that's what happened since the Ukrainian Raider, which was on a long-range harassment mission, was running out of battery, so the operator decided to finish off the old jet. Although the aircraft did not appear to be active, its presence at Belgorod Airport was striking, since a force of Russian Mi-8, Mi-28, and K-52 helicopters operates from there, so it was only a matter of time before the old jet ended up destroyed. On the Lyman front, operators of the 63rd Mechanized Brigade located and destroyed a fully loaded BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launcher system belonging to the invaders, which was hidden in a wooded area. The impact was so precise that it ignited the entire rocket payload of the vehicle, producing a spectacular secondary explosion that engulfed the area in flames, and a thick cloud of smoke that I'm sure made some of you nostalgic, missing the space launches you had gotten used to from Ivan's tanks. The 412th Independent Brigade of Unmanned Systems, Nemesis, reported on August 5th that its operators destroyed or damaged nearly 500 vehicles and approximately 400 motorcycles and buggies belonging to the invaders during the month of July 2026. The attacks targeted supply routes supporting Russian forces on the southern front and in Crimea, using a combination of short-range Mosquito drones near the front and medium-range attack systems. In particular, the Morrigan drone, manufactured in Ukraine, which is capable of operating at distances of up to 200 kilometers from the launch point. According to the brigade, their FPV Mosquito drones focused on attacking trucks, cars, and light vehicles near the contact line. Meanwhile, the Morgan and Hornet-type Mosquito drones focused on systematically pursuing convoys, trucks, tankers, and other transport vehicles on the rear roads. Many of the deeper attacks reached the critical corridor, which is the R-280 Novorossiya highway running from Mariupol through Melitopol towards Crimea. The unit indicated that they are trying to impose a continuous logistical blockade to wear down the invaders' ability to supply their units that are still trying to attack on the Zaporizhzhia front. The Morgan is a fixed-wing attack drone developed in close collaboration between Ukrainian engineers and operators of the Nemesis Brigade, and it ended up in the public spotlight at the end of May 2026. Specifically designed for operations behind enemy lines, it has been used against logistical and high-value targets, such as air defense systems. The 412th Nemesis Brigade has specialized in air defense suppression operations, deep logistical interdiction, and unmanned vehicle operations at multiple levels. Their July figures are not a surprise given that it is one of the elite units of Ukraine's unmanned systems forces. If I play fortune teller, I predict August will be very tough for the invaders in the sector. On the technology front, the 302nd Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade published a video on August 3rd of the Stash short-range air defense system, intercepting Russian Shahed-type attack drones. The Stash system was developed by the American defense company V2X and combines AGM-114L Hellfire missiles originally designed as air-to-ground anti-tank weapons for platforms like the 64 Apache. These missiles track and attack their target autonomously after launch, without requiring continuous guidance from the operator. The effective range is estimated to be 8 to 11 kilometers, with the missile reaching a maximum speed of Mach 1.3. Publicly observed for the first time in a trailer-mounted version in May of this year, the Stash has since appeared on high-mobility platforms, including Ford F-350 pickup trucks and Dutch DAF military transport trucks. Several Ukrainian units, including the 208th, 302nd, and 540th Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigades, are currently operating. Variants of the system, which is used to shoot down mainly jet-powered Shahed drones, which are faster, reducing the reaction time of traditional defenses, and Ukrainian interceptor drones. The modularity of the Stash allows it to be quickly mounted on commercial or military vehicles, enabling crews to change positions to protect multiple areas of interest, such as energy facilities and logistics centers. Hellfire missiles have a higher unit price than the Shahed drones they are shooting down, but at least it allows the use of the large available stock of these missiles, which have proven reliable even in adverse weather and can counter the invaders' high-speed drone waves. Meanwhile, a more cost-efficient solution is in development. On the international front, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine reported that a specialized North Korean ballistic missile unit composed of approximately 90 personnel has begun its deployment in western Russia, and it is expected to operate up to 120 ballistic missiles and 6 launchers to carry out attacks against Ukraine. Nikolai Chernyak, from the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine, told Reuters that the unit will be based in the Voronezh region, integrated into the 112th Missile Brigade of the invaders. Pyongyang has already delivered a new batch of 40 KN-23 and KN-24 short-range ballistic missiles, which carry heavier warheads and have a longer range than the Russian Iskander missiles, although they are less accurate. The first confirmed use of North Korean ballistic missiles against Ukraine was in August 2025, while a few days ago, an attack with these systems on the village of Radushna near Kryvyi Rih caused the death of several members of the same family. Between the end of 2023 and August 2025, North Korea supplied Russia with approximately 150 KN-23 and KN-24 missiles, in addition to millions of artillery shells and thousands of soldiers who previously operated in the Russian region of Kursk. But that's not the only thing the Korean dictator is selling to his Kremlin colleague, because this video, published on August 6, shows us the presence of North Korean soldiers inside a simulated stronghold at a Russian training center. In the footage, you can see that they are wearing Russian-style uniforms, helmets, and rubber boots. So it is assumed that these contingents will be integrated as reinforcements into invading units already fighting at the front, rather than operating as independent units. President Zelensky warned that Russia is preparing facilities in Boronega to receive up to 30,000 additional North Korean soldiers, which indicates a possible significant expansion. Beyond the 9,500 North Korean soldiers who remain in the Russian region of Kursk, who are currently not participating in direct combat operations. The successful integration of North Korean forces and systems into the front line implies the risk of accelerating the transfer of combat lessons and dual-use technologies to the Korean Peninsula, which could alter the security situation in Northeast Asia. Finally, the heat in recent days on the front has been extreme, something that the soldiers of the Ruby's Brigade showed in this video, where you can see that one of their soldiers is not exactly enjoying the summer warmth. The one who doesn't seem to have any complaints is their trench cat, who doesn't seem to mind even when it's on fire. Stay strong, heroes. Hello, friends? Okay, I think we all sometimes feel like we've already seen everything. But this tactic by the defenders to demilitarize invaders surprised me, since it takes advantage of the well-known weakness that the invaders have for Ukrainian toilets. So they decided to equip a ground drone with an anti-tank mine, on top of which they mounted a relatively intact toilet to use it as bait to attract some ambitious orc. We'll watch closely in case they post a video showing the result of this innovative trap. In this footage, we see the exact moment when a pair of kamikaze Hornet-type drones turn an invader's Bukinka into a pile of metal ready to be sent for recycling. The crew tries to shoot down the attackers with rifle fire, but that's not so simple because of the Hornets' low side profile and the high speed they reach during their final attack run. In short, an impeccable attack. The different sections of the land logistics route connecting occupied Crimea with Mordor keep filling up with new burned-out vehicles, marking every kilometer of the route. Soon it will be hard to convince enough drivers to try to pass through this highway of death, where all kinds of Ukrainian mutant mosquitoes patrol. In the video, you can also see that the bridge has been damaged, which is the work of a special type of attack mosquito, Behemoth class, that carries a tandem warhead specifically designed to destroy fortifications and reinforce structures like a bridge. The campaign of precision strikes maintains its intensity as Ukraine's defense forces continues to systematically dismantle, truck by truck, one of the Horde's most important supply arteries, since it connects Mordor with the occupied area of southern Ukraine and the Crimean Peninsula. In this footage, published on August 6th by the Ministry of Defense, you can admire the remarkable work of a company from the elite Signum unit, which maintains continuous fire control over the route that stretches from Mariupol to the Chongar Bridge. What Moscow once promoted as a safe land corridor has become a high-risk zone for any Russian military vehicle. The convoys, which transport troops, fuel, ammunition, and equipment, now face the constant threat of medium-range attack drones, operated not only by the pilots of Signum, but also by most of the most experienced and battle-hardened units of the unmanned systems forces. In the video, it's clear that the environment in that area is high risk for the invaders, since it's not only almost completely flat, but it also has beautiful, clear summer weather, which allows the Ukrainian raiders a perfect view of the road from very long distances enabling them to select their targets methodically. Meanwhile, they also transmit intelligence about the movements of Ivan the truck driver to coordinate the next attacks. This action is part of a campaign that has been intensely focused on closing the R-280 highway, also known as the Novorossiya Highway, or the Highway of Death, whose previous stages have already managed to reduce Russian military cargo traffic by more than 70%. They forced repeated closures of the Chongar Bridge, causing fuel and supply shortages throughout Crimea. By keeping the Mariupol-Chongar axis under constant pressure, Ukrainian forces are worsening the logistical problems of the Russian occupiers, since alternative routes remain limited and equally vulnerable to air attacks. In addition, the Kerch Bridge continues to experience intermittent closures, while naval traffic has been practically cut off due to attacks on Russian ships in the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. The cumulative effect is a gradual isolation of the peninsula, a strategic objective that Ukrainian commanders have openly pursued for years, and which is already forcing thousands of Mortarite civilians to leave the peninsula. On the Lyman front, operators from the Signum Battalion, part of the 59th Assault Brigade of the Unmanned Systems Forces, successfully attacked two mobile air defense groups of the invaders deep in the Donetsk region. These teams of invaders specialize in locating and destroying Ukrainian attack drones that are wreaking havoc on Ivan's logistics chain. For this reason, a special operation was launched to first eliminate the threat posed by the presence of these anti-aircraft groups, in order to create a window of opportunity for the rest of the swarm of hunter drones to continue their reconnaissance and attack missions without immediate interference. Once the neutralization of the mobile groups was completed, the rest of the Signum drones began working on secondary targets, which included support and logistics vehicles moving through the Russian rear. The Signum Battalion has specialized in operating fiber optic controlled drones, which are resistant to electronic warfare interference. The unit has repeatedly demonstrated its remarkable effectiveness against infantry, artillery, vehicles, and even aerial threats that Ivan throws in its path on the Lyman and Donetsk fronts. On the technological front, the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense has authorized the mass production of a new class of precision-guided munitions known as Firefly, specifically designed for the growing fleet of Baba Yaga heavy bomber drones. This munition solves one of the most persistent and deadly vulnerabilities faced by Ukrainian operators, who have to bring their bombers down to low altitudes in order to accurately drop unguided bombs, which exposes the aircraft to light anti-aircraft fire and makes them easy targets. Announced on July 20th, 2021, Firefly is a smart guidance kit compatible with bombs weighing between 1 and 9 kilograms. Once the bomb is released from an altitude of up to 800 meters, the munition independently calculates its trajectory, continuously corrects its flight path, and heads toward the target with a margin of error of 60 centimeters, even in the presence of electronic jamming systems. This capability allows the Baba Yaga heavy bombers to attack bunkers, trenches, and other reinforced fortifications from a safe distance, far beyond the effective range of the invaders' rifles and light anti-drone defenses. Since the end of July, the system has already entered the combat testing phase, which is being carried out by units of the Achilles Brigade operating in the Kupiansk area, where they successfully destroyed an oil pipeline used by Russian forces. The developers have indicated that they can manufacture up to 10,000 units per month with a unit cost of only $240 a figure that makes large-scale production economically viable for this war of attrition. Ukrainian naval drones really have Ivan the Pirate on edge. And further proof of this is that according to British Defense Intelligence, the Russian Navy has installed anti-drone metal cages over the sail of 3 of its 4-kilo-class diesel-electric submarines stationed at the Novorossiysk naval base. They also partially submerge themselves inside the port, leaving only the sails exposed. This way, They protect their hulls from possible attacks by Ukrainian aerial and naval drones. The invading admirals took these precautions to safeguard their submarine-launched Kaliber missile strike capability. Remaining partially submerged, even next to the dock, imposes significant operational wear and maintenance friction on the crews. However, the Russian commanders seem willing to accept these inconveniences to preserve their cruise missile launch capabilities. Yep, the special military operation is definitely going exactly as the old man from the Kremlin had planned. If you want to see additional content about the war in Ukraine, I invite you to visit our 2 new channels, where we present information about the war in a different format. Don't forget to check them out. Remember to visit our Patreon, where for just $1, you'll have access to a large number of uncensored videos and documentaries. Lastly, visit our store, where you can find items inspired by some of Ukraine's most outstanding units. Carry history with you, and with every purchase, you'll be supporting the United 24 program, which directly supports reconstruction programs, aid to the civilian population, and defense. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel.